Today's show is brought to you by Manscaped.com. See the podcast description for a special money off code. Welcome to the Spurs News Podcast, your home for all things Tottenham Hotspur. Now, here are your hosts.
Hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of the Spurs News Podcast. I am Sam. Joining me, my partner in crime to discuss all things Tottenham Hotspur once again, it's Matt.
Hey mate, you alright?
Yeah, I think so. Look, let's just get out of the way early. Things are pretty crappy right now. And when things are pretty crappy, you need help. Help along the way. And we've always said in the past, when things were bad, we treat this podcast as a little bit like a therapy session. I think regular listeners to the show have appreciated that. I don't think we're going to get any new listeners this week. I don't think there's anyone out there going, do you know what? I really want extra content about Tottenham right now. I don't think that's going to happen. So I'm fairly confident we're speaking to the regulars. If you are new, hello and welcome. A lot of the jokes we make are in jokes that are long running, so listen back, because otherwise we're not going to make a lot of sense. I'm not going to overly dwell, but I do have a really cunning plan to cheer everyone up. I've not run this past you. I've decided it would be a nice surprise for you as well. You ready?
Let's go on.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Ben.
Ben who?
Been knocking here for 10 minutes. Let me in. Oh yeah, this is going to be one of them.
Yeah, you can see like it's you know that. Do you ever remember that show that dating show that Paddy McGuinness used to do?
Oh,
where the guy would turn.
Thing.
Yeah, he'd turn over and go do. Just imagine that's what's going on.
Yeah, it's just people switching off the podcast. No, done. Yeah, that was his big plan. That was his idea. Yeah, oh yeah, there's going to be plenty of that. So we do have, obviously, some normal things that we do on the show, which I'm going to throw in. We do have your new segment, and this is going to be the last of the new segments, as this is our last show sponsored by Manscaped.com. Brutal honesty with our audience. They basically gave us a bit of a trial being our sponsor and said, hey, if you sell this much, we'll sponsor you for the season and you'll earn this. And we went, cool. Well, we haven't sold enough, so never mind. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who did buy something to support us, and I hope the products are really working out for you, because they did send us some samples and they are kind of good. So, so Matt's new segment, which is now about to be the last of the new segments, here you go! He's got balls!
Well, I mean, I did kind of want to say that it was going to be a moment for the Spurs players, or a moment in the game, or something relating to the Spurs team, but. Yeah. I think after the weekend's result,
they are seeming to be genitalia lacking.
I think someone even mentioned it in the comments. Let's give it to us, mate, for doing this podcast this week, eh?
Hooray! Dun, 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 dun. This week we've got balls for showing up. And it was touch and go, by the way. There were rumours of this podcast possibly being on strike this week. But no, yeah, I think so. I think showing up to face the music like this, yeah, give it us, definitely.
It's funny because your memory's short, and I mean the brain has a good way of kind of making you forget things that are painful, So so. There is part of me that's like, God, this is really crap. But then when you think about it, I mean, the end of Pochettino's tenure was pretty shit, and
yeah.
the vast majority of Mourinho's tenure was pretty shit. So it's not like this is new for us in the last couple of years, is it?
things haven't been great. I did also say to someone recently, it's like well, I say recently, like literally, I think it was yesterday. They were on about lost 3-1 at their ground, and I was like, well, to be honest with you, I'm kind of used to 5-1.
Yeah, wasn't it? Yeah, there was that game, wasn't there, when Adebayor got sent off, and we ended up getting tonked 5-1 So this is actually not a bad result. Really.
We lost there 5-1 twice in a row. So I was kind of like, so do you know what? A massive improvement. And we won the second half, everybody. I mean, come on. No, let's not dwell on that. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Cows go.
Cows go who?
No, dummy. Cows go moo.
Where have you been getting these from? Can you put that joke book away, please, Sam? Just put it away. Put it back in the shelf.
Dad joke book is my life. So that was the ball segment. Now, typically we do that and then we go into talking about manscaped.com. But as this is the last show sponsoring us, and they basically said we're not good enough for them, which is a little bit hurtful. Fuck them. No.
No, Sam, don't say that, mate.
No. Genuinely, I shouldn't. I try to keep it PG now, but I've ruined that already.
Listen, if we're not going to keep the podcast PG, and you've obviously told us a couple of dad jokes. I can tell everyone a grown-up joke. I don't know if there's any if anyone's got any kids about, if they want to put hands over their ears, but it's quite a funny joke.
Right, go for it.
So what do you get if you cross a paedophile with a pirate?
I don't know.
Kelly.
Oh no, that's cruel. I love that joke.
It's a grown-up one now. There we go.
That's a brilliant joke. I'm gonna have to sell that to everyone I see today. Hey kids, guess what? No. Yeah. Well, I feel like you've kind of stepped on my knock knock.
Sorry, mate. I'm trying to keep some of those lights on, and take me out.
Yeah. No likey. No likey. So I'm gonna kind of. I don't want people to take this the wrong way, okay? Because I know a lot of you are on our side. Some of you aren't. But I want to get this out of the way. So we're going to go to the fan questions and the topics suggested by our social media, and we're going to go there right now.
Let's go.
Now it's time for your comments from our social media.
Okay, we're going to start in the lovely world of Instagram, which is run by the lovely Laura. And we kick off with the Johnny Stark. Johnny has a few things. Now I know Johnny he messages the show quite a lot. So I know this is tongue in cheek. But he says, number 1, do you think Skip is already better than Højbjerg? No, so that's kind of like his sensible thing. And then he says, number 2, I reckon we'd be favourites to win the championship next year. Yes, I know you're being tongue-in-cheek, Johnny, but be careful at the moment because people will take that literal and you'll get jumped on. People are very angry. But is Skip already better than Højbjerg? Now, I like this question because it raises something at the moment. When Højbjerg joined us, I was very pleased. Statistically, with Kante the best defensive midfielder in the Premier League. Under Jose, I think there's no doubt at all that when he came in, he really made a difference to the way we played and how we played. Over the course of the season, it kind of drifted, but then the whole team drifted. So I didn't really read too much into that. He then had a storming Euros with Denmark. This season, he's kind of like a shadow of himself. And this is just me personally, just from my own observations. Against Arsenal, I mean, it was like he wasn't there. They literally just played round him. And one of the strengths of having a player like that in the team is the idea is he'll either stop them or he'll stop them, Yeah. He'll either intercept it or he'll make sure they're not running off him. I mean, the guy, it was like he wasn't there. And there's so much footage which people can see, which people have highlighted. Now you can point to perhaps tactical, you can point to perhaps positioning, and the players looked confused, and using the Arsenal game in isolation perhaps isn't fair, but just generally over the season, But my thinking on this, perhaps, and Matt, come in when I finish this. I think the guy needs a rest.
Yeah, did he play literally every minute of last season?
Yeah. So for the Premier League, he played every minute of the Premier League for us, and in the cup competitions, he featured in pretty much every game, whether he came off the bench or started. He then went to the Euros and obviously played for his country, so he had a shortened break for pre-season, and now he's back, and basically for the Premier League again, he's in essence playing every minute. So he looks like someone who is either lost his mojo, like, lost his kind of, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing at the moment, or is just exhausted. It could be a combination of the two. And I said I was talking to Stefan about this the other day, and I said to him, he looks like a guy who needs to be sat down for a couple of weeks, like a couple of games, with a videotape of how he played. It's kind of like, sure. Chill out, man. Have a break. Let your muscles relax, and watch this, because this is you. This is what you are. Don't become a shadow at that. But to answer the question at the moment, Oliver Skipp makes a massive difference to our team, whereas Højbjerg I don't think would currently. I think you could take Højbjerg out, and I think we wouldn't notice right now. I think Skipp, I think anyone who wants a perfect illustration, watch the Arsenal game. Because when he came on, Arsenal couldn't play through us anymore. He literally stopped it. He shut it up. Now, yeah, you could argue they slowed down a bit, but yeah, he made a hell of a difference.
Yeah, I think this is kind of, I know it's obviously something that I want to kind of raise at some point today. I know I did talk about it last week, but this short-termism that people have, and people getting Højbjerg's back. He had an amazing season last season.
Yeah,
he was fantastic, and 1 month of football, doesn't define a player. So right now, Skipp is in better form than Højbjerg completely. Yeah. Right now, you pick Skipp over Højbjerg because Skipp's in better form. That doesn't make Skipp a better player than Højbjerg.
No.
And that's what I think people are kind of. This is where the people are kind of making this mistake where they're kind of like looking at the last 3 or 4 games and then deciding everything because of these last 3 or 4 games, And so I know something I'll get into later, but just very briefly, I mean, I was looking into it, and like you think of Liverpool last season, they had a terrible run at home, didn't they, when they were losing?
Yeah,
but
awful.
Do you think it would have been a good idea to sack Klopp or to did Liverpool get relegated? Liverpool in the Championship this season, looking to win the Championship title. It's a very short period of time. So right now, yes, Skipp is playing better. I'd rather have Skipp in the team than Højbjerg, but I'm not saying Skipp's a better player. He might be. No. I mean, Skipp's still a youngster. We keep saying that, don't we?
His upside is massive.
He's a youngster. He's got so much to learn still, and I think Højbjerg is a perfect player to learn with. But to make it a little bit more light-hearted, I know if anyone that follows the Facebook page, I did post that Højbjerg got remarried. I say remarried. He kind of renewed his wedding vows to his wife because their first wedding was during the lockdown, so they kind of wanted to make a big event. And when you look at his wife, you just think, even when he wasn't playing football, this guy wasn't getting a break, was he?
Oh, no, really?
You could, she's a lovely looking lady. So, when he's not playing football, there's a lot going on with this guy. He's never resting, is he? He needs to be separated from his wife and taken somewhere by himself to rest for a couple of weeks.
Wow. I'm going to have to find out what his wife looks like now.
Did you not see the picture I posted on Facebook?
I did see Sergio Reguilon went to the James Bond premiere, which Harry Kane was at, and I got to once again see the future Mrs. Reguilon with him, and I'm still fairly confident that's the reason we signed him, to bring her to London, because wow. By her living in England right now, I think the beauty standard of the whole country got lifted. It's like, damn.
Isn't it funny as well? Because I guess some people listening of a younger generation this wouldn't even make any sense to them. But do you remember the WAG generation back in the 90s?
Oh,
It was.
It's just
Isn't it funny? That's
orange. It was almost like a wag chic look, if you know what I mean. It was weird.
for anyone that doesn't know what WAG stands for, wives and girlfriends.
Yeah,
but
probably will clarify that. Wives and girlfriends of footballers. Do you know it all kind of started? Remember there was that ITV show called Footballers' Wives.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, that was that. You know, there's some trash TV that's watchable, and then there's some of it. It's just like, oh wow.
But do you know what? I never used to watch that, but Vicky, my wife, used to watch it. But one thing in hindsight, I kind of enjoy is the fact that Jason Cundy's wife was on there, and she used to proper slag him off. And now I know,
brilliant.
now how much of a wanker he is. I'm actually quite glad that she did that on television. You know?
Yeah. Well, there we go. We all need heroes, and not all of them wear capes.
There you go.
Next up on Instagram is Ben Warwick, who says, "What the fuck is going on at our club?" Great question, Ben. Well structured. We'll get back to you. We are doing research right now, and we will hope to find an answer soon. Ross 82817, strange surname, says the problem is the fringe players from last season that we needed to get rid of are starting this season. They are not good enough. To be honest, we are dog shit. Unfortunately, we'll be lucky for top 10 this season. We need Joe Lewis and Levy gone. Yeah, I mean that's kind of like a.
To be fair, we did get rid of a few fringe players.
Yeah,
I mean, there's so much you can do in a transfer window.
It's a difficult thing because I think a lot of us as fans could sit down with the squad list and go, at the end of last season, probably look at a squad list and go, there's probably about 10 you could cut, and it wouldn't impact massively, providing you signed, re-strengthened in areas. I know Dan, who's on our podcast, gone 10. It was 20. but Dan's very ruthless with this. But I mean, I think you could look at that and go, quite easily. And I think a fair few of us would look at the list and go, yeah, you're probably right. It's not a. Some of us we got sentimental attachment to, but Eric Lamela for me was one. It was kind of like, oh, I know this is a good decision, but I don't want him to go. So that was kind of like a strange one. Where there were others where I was kind of like, let me pack your bags, off you go, mother. Anyway, so it was, but that's different for everyone, and it's different because of your affection for the players. Even Danny Rose just sort of silently leaving on a free transfer was an odd one for me. But so to say the problem is the fringe players because they're starting again, it harkens back to like what you were saying. 3 games into the league season, our defensive pairing of Sanchez and Dyer hadn't conceded a goal and looked great, and that included a game against Man City, who, if you ever watch Man City, even on their worst day, create chances for fun. So it's kind of like everyone went, wow, they're looking really solid, and we kind of looked at it and went, yeah, they have started the season really well. Clearly the structure, the tactics, Skip, I think, played a big part in that, and it's looked good. And then we had an international break, we had the fiasco with the South American players, which included Sanchez, of course. Then we've had injuries, and it resulted in players not being able to play together and everything like that. I think Sanchez and Dyer played their first game together against Arsenal, and I mean, the whole team got ripped apart. So everyone all of a sudden went, after those 3 games, hey, this is looking good, I'm glad we didn't sell them. And then 3 games later, everyone's going, why are they still here? It's very difficult. Now, I never got carried away after those 3 games. I think everyone looked at it and went, oh, perhaps this is the difference a Shield in front of them can make in Oliver Skip. And it's interesting to me that the best defensive teams in world football, if you look at them, you could look at the 2 central defenders and go, those 2 are great. They're really, really a great defensive pairing. But the teams all have a midfielder in front of that central defensive pairing that literally spends their life tidying up. Chelsea are not the same team without Kante. They're really not. Against us, we could have gone in 2-0 up easily against them, and it would have been a completely different game if we'd had a striker with his scoring boots on that day. Now, they brought on Kante at half time, and we got nothing. Like in the second half, we never got a sniff. They literally just came on and just went, yep, this game's mine. And it's funny because I remember in the pre-season stupid friendly tournament with Chelsea, they were 2-0 up and cruising, and we never looked like we could even pass a ball through them. They took Kante off, and the game finished 2-2. And like the guy is a difference maker. Every single time he plays, he's unbelievable. and yet people don't ever look at Chelsea and go like, oh, their defensive record, well done, Kante. They look at the defenders, which is an odd thing.
Yeah,
but...
you look at Leicester, right? I think take him out of that team, they would not have won the Premier League. I'm pretty confident saying
never. that. Yeah, no, I 100%. And I think the vast majority of Leicester's squad from that season would agree with you. They'd probably go, yep.
Yeah.
Because the guy was insane, and he just was, and he got his move to Chelsea, and he's been phenomenal for them. I'm still hoping Real Madrid buy him like they did Makelele, because at the moment Chelsea are something else with that guy. But yeah, so going back to it, the problem is being the fringe. The problem, I mean, it's so deep rooted, and me and Matt are gonna have a proper conversation on this. So Rose, we're gonna move on from this, but by the end of this, sorry, Rose, I meant Ross. Sorry, Ross, I called you Rose. My bad. So yeah, when hopefully by the end of this podcast, we'll have given you a more detailed answer than that. Next up from the wonderful world of Instagram is Diasporian, who says, could it be that Nuno was overthinking prior to the North London derby? Knowing the magnitude of the game, he wanted a bold, aggressive plan and came up with a setup we saw. If it worked, we'd all be calling him a genius. It was high risk, high reward, as they say. Unfortunately, it did not work. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. I mean, I was really surprised. He didn't start Skip, did he? Skip come on the second half, didn't he? Yeah, that really surprised me, actually. But then again, it could lean into that kind of high risk, high reward, and it, like you say, it didn't work, and so he's changed it at half time, and it did change it at half time, didn't it? Because, like you say, we won the second half, so.
yeah, you'll never sing that. No, yeah, no, you're right. I mean, overall, I mean, it just was an awful performance. But yeah, I mean, it is valid, and we're all human, and he did very much take the responsibility for it afterwards. So perhaps that is something. Perhaps he outfought himself, so to speak. Next comment is from a man with his own intro tune.
He's a man, such a man, such a man. He's a real man's man.
That's right, it's the Mountain Man, down from his mountains once again to bring us this point. More of an observation than a question, but shocking to see Nuno's body language after the third goal and the remainder of the game. Arms folded or hands in pockets, looked completely loose. Looked completely lost, moping around the sideline. Meanwhile, Arteta is heading and kicking every ball and barking instructions all game. How is Nuno going to inspire the team or instill confidence if he doesn't even at least look confident himself? He looked completely out of his depth, and it's worrying.
Do you know? I love the fact he's going observing the game. You can just imagine him like with his one hand on his hip and just standing on his mountain with his binoculars observing.
Yeah. Yeah, but Mountain Man's got multiple cameras. He's got the one on Nuno. He's got one on... I tell you what,
he's got his monitor set up on his mountain.
It's funny you brought this up. Do you know what? I'd completely forgotten this. It's funny. There is actually a genuine thing on Tottenham social media, on Twitter anyway, I don't know about anywhere else, where after a game they do like manager cam, where they basically have got a camera on the manager during games, and they did it with Jose, and like fans generally liked it because Jose, bonkers. And so they've carried on with Nuno, and so far, like the first 3 league games, of course, they released it, like, the game was at the weekend on Monday, here's manager cam, reaction to the goal and stuff. Now, Tottenham fans, due to years and years and years of just generally getting battered and not having a good time, have developed a kind of gallows humour. I'd say is probably the best way of describing it. So Monday, the very first tweet out of the Twitter account, something like an information tweet. It was like please note at the stadium this is going to be happening at the next game. And the first reply was, release manager cam. Show us the footage. Now, unsurprisingly, at the time of recording, there has been no manager cam. But yeah, so yeah, the Mountain Man. To be honest with you, man, I didn't notice during the game, and I have not watched any highlights. My focus during it was kind of like, why am I watching this? Why am I putting myself through it? Oh yeah, I'm doing the updates for the Facebook page, and anyone who's on our Facebook page will know after the third goal went in, I did encourage everyone to just go outside, take a walk, spend the day with their families. Like, I have to be here. You don't. just walk away. Which is the second time I've ever done that, by the way. The first time was against Bayern Munich in the Champions League. I think when their fifth or sixth goal went in, I can't remember, but yeah, that was bad.
That was dark.
Yeah, it wasn't the best, was it? George Williams just has an unhappy face, crying. Yeah,
I'm with you, mate.
Best comment so far, George.
Yeah, that's all it needs. That's all it needs.
Yido N17 says, is there a deep set of rot in the dressing room? There's a few players that were here when we started to do badly. I'm thinking Dyer, Dele, now Kane, possibly causing a dark cloud in the dressing room due to their poor performance. Morale in general doesn't seem that positive. Are these players sustaining the bad feeling and low motivation? We had a glimpse of good play, but the team seems fractured, so don't play as a team. I don't feel we're cohesive in our play. Sulking superstars? It kind of opens a much bigger debate, that, doesn't it? Because it's kind of like... because if you read a lot in the press, so like when Pochettino's tenure was coming to the end, you started to see stories hit the press like players are fed up with the same training routines, players are looking for a change and stuff like that. And then of course you watch that Brighton game where the players just didn't show up for him, and that was it. The writing was on the wall and he was gone. Under Jose, it was pretty quick how some players, Dele, started telling the press he's horrible, he's not very nice, and then over time that increased. That there was more and more, and then of course they clearly didn't want to play for him anymore, and Jose was gone. It's a little bit worrying that six league games in, you're seeing that already, and it is out there. If you go to the Athletic, and I've said this on the podcast before, and Matt, me and you have talked about it before, there are some journalists you have good insights with Tottenham, so when they write something, it's come from someone. It's not just like if you see something in the Sun, typically that's like anecdotal. They've basically been at I don't know, let's call it a wedding, and someone at the wedding said something and they've written a big story about it. That was a fun example. But you see something in the Athletic written by Charlie Eccleston. You see something written in the Guardian by David. That's come from a player, literally from their horse's mouth, or it's come from an agent or someone in management, or it's come from someone. There was a story last year. Remember when we watched the documentary and we just said, "Wow, Jose Mourinho's really passive aggressive with the physios."
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah,
You remember towards the end of his tenure, there was story after story about player fitness being crap, and Jose doing. Yeah, gee, I wonder where that came from.
Yeah, sure.
I wonder who was talking to the press about that. But yeah, so the fact that we've already got these stories coming out, the reason why I said it leads to a greater debate, because it's interesting. With Pochettino, it led to a discussion with a lot of fans going, "Oh God, maybe it is time that we have to make a change. That's awful. He's Pochettino. He's the guy." And I mean, I think we even discussed it on a podcast. Like, it feels like inevitable now. We don't want it to happen, but it feels like there's only one way out of where we are. And then under Jose, it was like, Jose's got to go. The players clearly, he's got to go. We're 6 games into this, and the funny thing is, the fan reaction I'm seeing to these stories is more, again. So this is the third manager this group of players want to get rid of. And I find that quite interesting, because there is a very big Nuno's out of his depth, Nuno out thing right now, but I just find it interesting that these stories didn't feed into that. It was kind of like, because even the people saying I don't think Nuno's right for us are going, maybe the players need to pull their heads out of their asses, because Pochettino's training was too hard. Jose didn't train us enough. Oh, Nuno's grumpy.
Yeah.
It's like, really?
What? Yeah.
You're getting paid how much? And this is what's going on. So I did find that reaction quite interesting. So yeah, be interesting to keep an eye on that, because of course, if the players do genuinely just stop playing for him, then that's it. The manager can't do anything, and I don't think that's a reflection on him. This group seem to have a kind of, some of them I think have a very overinflated opinion of what they should be on merit, if that makes sense. And perhaps I don't know, it's so difficult. It's so difficult because different coaches and different managers have very different expectations of you in terms of your training and your attitude. The thing about Pochettino was like, you train double sessions, you train hard, you work hard, or I won't even, you are dead to me if you don't do that, you're gone. And, you will arrive every morning, you'll shake everyone's hands, we'll eat breakfast together, all this kind of thing. Jose was kind of like, you're adults, you're professional, this is the level of fitness you need, our training sessions are going to focus on tactics, not fitness. And it's kind of like, you can see his point in that, I personally am very critical of that, because I think modern coaching shows that you need to be more on it with sports science and stuff like that, because the game has changed. But at the same time, you do kind of understand his point. You're all professionals, highly paid. Fitness should be something that you do. It shouldn't be something I have to drill into you. You can kind of see the point.
Do you know what? That raises quite an interesting thought in my mind with that then, because if you've got Pochettino that's kind of, like you say, telling them what to do, and it kind of, you're right, you come and they'll have breakfast, so it's almost quite regimented.
Yeah.
And then when you get Mourinho come in and, like you say, you're adults, you then I guess they're kind of, maybe they're missing that direction, that leadership, and so all these stories coming out about they're not happy with this, not happy with that. Maybe they need.
Maybe they need someone telling them, this is how you behave. If you don't, off you go.
Do you know what I mean? I don't know if I don't know what new, we can, I guess, stories coming out about Nuno and what he's like, but I don't get the impression he's grumpy. I don't get that impression. I know that story come from the Sun.
Yeah,
but
I mean that's been around for a while. The Sun have kind of been the latest people to jump on it, but it originated with an article actually in pre-season, before we'd even kicked the ball in the season, that a group of players were finding him very hard to approach, and it came from the Guardian, from a writer, David Heitner, who has pretty good contacts. He's someone that he's not heard anecdotal. But the thing is like, you and I are both of an age, we've done several jobs in our life. You could probably the same as me. How many times have you gone into work and your boss is in a bad freaking mood and you just go, today he's an ass, and you get on with your job, because that's what you do. Now you're in a position of management as well. You've gone in, there's bound to be days where you're in a bad mood and you're not as approachable as you are on other days. It's just life. That's human nature. And it kind of feels like perhaps some of these players have been a bit mollycoddled, that they're not used to it or something. I don't know. It's weird.
And it strikes me from the very little I've seen of him in interviews and stuff. It strikes me that he seems to be quite interested in the psychological element of it.
Yeah.
So if he is, and if it's something that's quite important to him, then he's not going to come in moody every day, is he?
No.
That's not going to be his style. Like you say, he might have days, I don't know, he might have a day when he's had a proper bust up with his missus and he's come in and he's...
Exactly,
so we all do that, but I don't think that's his coaching technique. I don't think every day they're all just thinking, oh God, here comes moody arse again. I don't think I can't see that's been the case.
I'm like you. I don't think it's the case, and I'd really, really hope it's not the case, because if it is, that is difficult. You're going to work every day. You want to go to work and enjoy yourself. You're going to work every day going, oh, not again. I got, misery guts is going to be there.
Yeah, and especially as he's just started. I mean, like, it's different if they've been like for 7 or 8 years. That's what. Do you know what? I reckon at the end of his Wolves tenure, I think he probably was moody, because I'm thinking that they weren't playing well. He was probably thinking, and this is it, right? This is it. I know I'm going to feel like I'm going off on a tangent now, but this is the thing. Football runs in cycles, doesn't it? It goes in cycles, right? So Nuno had his cycle at Wolves. They were amazing, weren't they? Like that season, they qualified for Europa League. They come up a couple of seasons before from the Championship, where they just absolutely took the piss out of that league. That he was, honestly, that was cycle. And then he just come to the end of his cycle at Wolves and moved on, just like with Pochettino. Pochettino had his cycle with us, and he comes to the end of his cycle. and then what you either do is you either go, right, here's 300 million, or it's just going to go dead. And what happened with us, we never got given the money, so the cycle went dead, right? The cycle just went dead, right? And the problem we've got now is we're not, like, I appreciate we're buying players and we're trying to get rid of Deadwood and we're trying to renew the cycle. So if you imagine the cycle, we're at the bottom of the cycle and we're going back round again. We brought Paratici in, we've brought a new manager in, so we're on a new cycle, and that's what frustrates me the most. I think that, look, don't get me wrong, I'm as pissed off as all Spurs fans at the moment with what's going on the last few weeks. I'm pissed off with it. It gives me the fucking hump every time I think about Spurs at the moment. Yeah. But I'm trying, and I think I'm at a place where I'm just looking at it from a logical, sensible, calm perspective, which is that we're at a start of a cycle where we've still got players, like in that message from Instagram. We still do have players that probably shouldn't be at the club. We've got a lot of, like you said, I think last week, we've got some of Mourinho's players, we've got some of Pochettino's players. We've got to start this cycle again, and it needs a bit of time. Do you know what I mean?
No, you're up. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I said it last week, and I've repeated it to a few people. When Pochettino took charge of us, his initial tenure, a lot of people were like, he's out of his depth. He came from Southampton. He don't know what he's doing. The football wasn't great. Our results weren't great, and generally people were ready to sack him before Christmas in his first season. He often attributes Harry Kane getting on his goal scoring run in the Europa League and then scoring his goal against Villa as being the reason he kept his job in that first season, which is why I'm like absolutely championing that we start Dane Scarlett tonight in the Europa Conference League, and he gets on a goal scoring run. Because do you remember that season? We weren't playing well, like the football wasn't great or anything, but that whole Harry Kane emergence thing and all the memes of like there's a Harry Kane coming, like a hurricane and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was fun. Do you remember that? It was like a real... Because none of us had any expectation of winning a trophy or anything like that. So we were just having fun of like, here's this kid who's come through, he's scoring goals, it's hilarious. We got Adebayor and Soldado earning a bloody fortune and they're just sat on the bench because this kid's outdoing him. And it was just fun. It was just real fun. And like a lot of people just remember that. Like that is my memory of Pochettino's first season. That is it. Like Ryan Mason, Andros Townsend, like that's in my head. If you actually look over the results, we had some crap results, like really bad results, and like we weren't really up there. And I think he managed to get us to 5th in a season where it was the top 4, and then there was like a gap, So it's kind of like a weird thing, but. What I would say is we don't seem to have that same kind of energy at the moment. And I think a lot of that is because, like you said about the cycles, the fan base at the moment were at the top of that cycle and have now fallen all the way around and are kind of just angry about it. And I get it. Like you've just displayed it perfectly then. We are annoyed about where we are. But I think the annoyance and the anger is being directed probably at the wrong people.
Yes.
Because it's always directed at the coach, it's directed at, Paratici and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, you can make arguments about the fact that they've come in and they've made decisions that you don't agree with, but that's kind of like a small thing. It's like, I don't agree with our tactics there, or I don't agree with that signing there. That's kind of like a microcosm, if you like. The bigger issue with the club and the bigger issue of the reason why we are where we are is the ownership, and everyone looked at what Pochettino did on the budget that he did it and went, brilliant, keep doing that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, right? And I apologise. I know it's not very often I do this, and for good reasons. But I try not to make a political analogy. Okay, but there is one I think that's quite glaring at the moment, which is very, very current, and it's on everyone's mind here in this country, which is the fuel shortage. Yeah. Now.
Or lack of.
Yeah. So I get annoyed, right, when I see memes on Facebook, and one of them, I think you must have seen it. I think it's been shared far and wide. It's like anyone that's queuing for petrol, make sure you buy some condoms so you don't breed any more idiots, right? Right. Okay. Now, I really grinds my gears because, like, this is a great example. One of my friends, right? on Facebook. Look, loads of morons queuing for petrol at my local garage, being posted while being in the queue for getting petrol. So hang on a second, like who's
yeah,
more,
wait.
well,
They're
who's
all morons.
yeah,
Me,
they're
I've got a legitimate reason to be here.
yeah,
No one else has one.
yeah, they're the morons. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's brilliant. It's brilliant because there you got the guys at the top who have created this mess, just with their arms folded, laughing at each other while we're just all blaming each other. And that's what Levy's doing. Levy's doing exactly the same. He created this fucking mess by not buying any players for what was it? Two windows? Right?
I think it's
three windows, right?
And one player in 4.
Right, so we talk about cycles. I mean, it is just unreal how he allowed this to happen. And at the time, you could paper over the cracks, you could get away with it. But we're now experiencing the after effects of that. I genuinely think we are. Like the lack of investment, the lack of cycling the team, and you talk about the players coming out and saying things, whether it's true or not. As much as like Harry Kane at the club, fantastic world class player. Possibly shouldn't even be here anymore. Delhi possibly shouldn't be anymore. We should have cycled. We should have recycled. We should have had new players that have been playing for Spurs for 2 or 3 seasons. Quality players. Like do you remember we was talking about I struggle to pronounce his name. Diabala. Can you imagine if he'd have come in? If we'd have had Bruno Fernandes in, like we was trying to get all these players, like they'd have been settled in the team. We'd have had a new cycle of players. It didn't happen, and we're now experiencing a stale squad that just have got their set ways. They don't like things when they come in, they come out, and it's just we are where we are because of the piss poor way this club has been controlled from the top. And that's as far as I'm concerned, that's where the blame should fall with, not with Nuno, not with Harry Kane, and I even said this in the chat. I would even go as far as saying not with Ndombele, because that guy frustrates the fuck out of me. But like I'm not going to put the blame to him. The blame is with the guy at the top who's made a complete and utter mess. Because at the end of the day, like you've said before, with these guys, it's money. Joe Lewis couldn't give a flying fuck about the team because he's not interested. It's an investment. It's money. It is. Yeah. Like you said yesterday in the chat, they could sell this club in a couple of weeks' time for what, 1.5 billion. How much did they buy? How much did they buy him for? How much did they buy us for? 200 million. There you go. And they can sell it for 1.5 billion. Never put any money in the club. The money's all been generated by the club. They don't give a toss, do they? No,
and they got no reason to. I mean. The club's what's saddled with the debt from the stadium, nobody else. Everything that's been done. I mean, I often say this, and it's a difficult one, because you can look at it and go, the club, in a lot of ways, management of the club and everything is well run. But we don't have owners who invest in the club to improve it, if that makes sense. So you've got some clubs you look at and you go, they're not really very well run. Now, I'm going to use Chelsea as an example briefly. Chelsea, when Roman Abramovich came in, was not a well-run football club. Chelsea literally were working off of his money. So they'd have been bankrupt within a minute if he'd just gone, do you know what? Nah, sod it, I don't like football anymore. And we all used to sit back and go, please let that happen. But they then, I think over time, realised that, and they started putting infrastructure in place to, they worked a hell of a lot on their academy improvements, and that's a sidebar about their academy recruitment, but that's another thing. So they kind of put the infrastructure in place, and what is amusing or kind of painful is they mirrored us with the structure and everything that was going on behind the scene. They're now working on a stadium development. They're working on various different things. They literally mirrored what Tottenham were doing, but the big difference was the owner of Chelsea, on a regular basis, put his hand in his pocket to go, oh, I want to win things. So this is what we need to win. And if they ever didn't win anything, he went, okay, well, let's try again with this guy, and here's money to back that guy. With Tottenham, it's always been, the club have literally got the budget of what the club is. You got no investment at all at any point, whether that was for the stadium. The frustrating thing about the stadium, and you hear about the overruns and the cost overruns, which Daniel Levy points to as the reason why we weren't able to invest the way us as fans wanted us to for those windows. But we're then sat knowing that our owner has got over 4 billion in the bank, which makes him like the 4th richest owner in the Premier League. You know, and I'm not talking about the guy's assets, I'm talking about literally sat in a bank account, which means at any point during that he could have gone, right, well, you know, here's 300 million. Even if we did it as a loan, you know, right, okay, here's 300 million, which allows us to do the investment when we need it, to improve the team, to make sure the team's a better footballing team, and, you know, I'll have it back when the stadium's built. Do you know what I mean?
But he's not interested, though, is he?
No, he's not. And that's the thing. And that is where frustration for fans should be. Like for me, we can look at it loads. And don't get me wrong, on a game-by-game basis, be frustrated at tactics, team selection, because that's what, you know, we're football fans. We could be the best team in the world, and then we draw a game, and we'd all be really critical, because that's what we do. We can be critical over transfers and, you know, player recruitment, stuff like that, because again, that's a subject, that's a debate we can all have, and it's very subjective, and none of us have an idea or a clear vision of what Paratici and Nuno are trying to build and the squad they're building, and that's why a lot of us feel frustrated at the moment, because it's like, under Pochettino, kind of like by 10 games in, you kind of saw what he was trying to do. I think we're not quite there yet. I don't think with Nuno any of us go, okay, we can see the play we can see the way you want us to play. Okay, I can understand, you know, it's going to take a while. At the moment, I think we're all looking at it going, I don't know. I don't know what we're doing yet. That hopefully will come very quickly, I hope. But when it comes to the actual problems of the club, where all of us are looking at it going, you know, we were up there, and rather than being able to stay there, we just collapsed, you know. There's that famous tweet, you know, after we lost the Champions League final, you know, we're the famous Tottenham Hotspur and we will be back. I mean, I know that's just a social media person put that out, and I know that but as a fan base, we're kind of all looking at that going, really? Because at the moment, we feel pretty far away from even being in the Champions League, you know, qualifiers.
Yeah, and that's Sam. That's where the frustration lies with fans, right? Okay, so when you see some of these ridiculous comments and these just frustrations and get rid of Nuno and get rid of this and that, and
well, that's just the anger.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, yeah, exactly. Like, you know, like we posted a picture of on Spurs News of Harry Kane at the Premier, the W07 Premier, and genuinely, and this is even, I find it incredible just saying the words out loud. You had one person saying, "Why is he at this Premier? Why is he not at home practicing?" So why is Harry Kane, a world-class elite football player, not in his back garden kicking a football into a goal? When he's out having
about 9 p.m. at night,
a little bit of a life, you know. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a ridiculous comment, but I understand the frustration behind it. Right, I do understand.
I'd like to think it was tongue in cheek, but then there were a lot very similar.
Yeah, no, there was. So that person, that football fan, like all of us, is frustrated, but they are aiming it at the wrong person, right? Now, we accept, right? Me and you have accept that Harry Kane hasn't been acting in the right manner recently, but even that, Sam, you can put the blame at Levy, can't you? You know, he's promised Kane. Kane's always said, look, if the team's always progressing, I'm always happy here. The team's going backwards. We're on the cycle, right? We're not progressing. That cycle's kind of, you know, gone to the back of it again. We're starting again. So Kane's looking at that, going, no, we're not progressing. So I don't want to be part of it. So it's not a surprise, you know. So although we can get frustrated with him, we can get frustrated he's not putting the effort in.
Yeah.
The blame lies with the owners, Levy and ENIC. You know, everything goes back to that. So when I look on social media and I see people frustrated, and I see them attacking Nuno, I see them attacking Kane, I see them attacking anybody. I mean, like, everybody's getting it. You know, everyone's Højbjerg, all the shit that Højbjerg's getting. Fucking Højbjerg, like, you know, oh, he's not playing well at the moment, you know. But you've got to channel that frustration to the right place, because at the moment, Joe Lewis and Daniel Levy and ENIC are laughing at you because you're getting pissed off with the wrong people. You're not being pissed off with them. They're the ones that you should be frustrated with. And I get it, because all right, we weren't winning trophies under Pochettino. We was doing very well. We was having, like, me and you will bang on about all the time. Those 2-3 years was an incredible time to support Spurs. Right, we never won any trophies, but we was a joy. It was your heart filled every time you thought of being a Spurs fan. Okay, now that is why people now are pissed off, because we just look clueless. We're wandering about, and there's no direction like we had on push. That is why people are angry. They're not angry because, like, you know, like I always say, as much as I hate to use this different way of looking at it, but like with Arsenal, for example, right? Arsenal fans, look, trophy after trophy after trophy under Wenger. Even under Arteta, they're still winning FA Cups. They're still winning trophies. Them guys win trophies, right? So when they're bottom of the table, like a few weeks ago, do you know what? Not surprised that they're feeling pissed off, like, and they're all angry and they want Arteta to go. You're entitled to it. But with us, even though we've not been winning trophies, I still understand why we've got that frustration, because we've had a taster of being a very good club that were challenging for the title. We're in the like you said, in the Champions League final, you know?
Yeah.
And so I get the frustration, but I just don't like the way the frustration is aimed at the guys that are just... It's sort of like, you know, like Nuno's been taken on, like, in the summer. Give the guy a chance. Like, you know, like, why the hatred towards him? Why the utter hate? Like, even the other week, like you said, that Johnny Stark was, like, taking a piss out of the way he licks his lips. I mean, just give the guy a chance. Do you know what I mean? Just give him a chance. Why can't we take the piss out and leave his bald head? Do you know what I mean? That's the guy who should be getting it.
I did see it, by the way. He does lick his lips. It's weird. I don't know what's wrong with that, but knock knock.
Go on, who's there?
Wahoo! What are you so excited about?
I just saw some more lights go.
Yeah, good. Right. Darren Ward.3 says, would you rather have balls for a chin or a cock for a nose? Either way, you could still use Manscaped.
I don't know where to go with that one.
I think ball chin better than a cock nose, isn't it? Ball chin.
Oh,
yeah. I'd go Peter Griffin ball chin, definitely. Right, so that's everything for Instagram. Thank you for everyone on Instagram. We appreciate you as always. Heading over to Facebook, we have Peter Robinson who says, what has Paratici got to say about the situation? After all, it was him who convinced Levy to hire Nuno as manager. P.S. Best of luck with the podcast. And then he did some laughing faces. Sarky. I think Paratici, Nuno, it's a difficult one because I've seen fans talk about this a lot. The kind of like Daniel Levy put the statement out, basically like, you know, when we hired Jose, we forgot our DNA. You know, we want to be playing attacking football, and we're going to get back to that. And we've all gone, no, we haven't. And Paratici came in, and the press were all saying that Paratici looked at a few of the candidates that we'd shortlisted and went, no, we need to be stronger defensively. Now, if you look at our record defensively last season, you'd go, yep, we scored a shed load of goals, and if we'd conceded less, we'd have done really well. So you can kind of understand the thinking of that when you've got Kane and Son. You're looking at that going, okay, well, that's 30 to 40, 50 goals in your season. If we just are solid, then we're going to win stuff. So it's kind of like a very simplistic equation to this, but Nuno as a manager isn't... Everyone's got him branded as like Jose 2.0. I think even Jamie Carragher, he did quite a good analysis of the North London derby, to be fair, said that he referred to him as Jose Light. It's a little bit unfair, personally. I think it's a little bit unfair. Wolves scored plenty of goals and played good football, but towards the end, and it's kind of like what you said, it's like you're only, I think it's quite a famous expression, you're only as good as your last game. And it kind of feels like his football is judged purely on that end tenure with Wolves. And because Tottenham have started a bit all over the place and, not really looking like we got a clear pattern of play, etc., that's kind of carried over. I mean, don't get me wrong, if it doesn't improve, then It's clearly not working. I don't hold that against Nuno, really. I don't even hold it against Paratici. I just think sometimes some people don't work at certain clubs. I think Jamie Carragher actually used the analogy of Roy Hodgson at Liverpool when he was there. He was kind of like, Roy's a great manager, like great tactically, everything was great, but it just didn't work. And so I kind of get what he says with that, and I do accept that. I do accept that in football sometimes it just don't work. I remember when Glenn Hoddle became our manager, and he was doing amazing at Southampton. Do you remember? And we like poached him from them, and they were really upset. And they're still upset to this day, by the way. And, you know, he had them playing amazing football stuff. And this is Glenn Hoddle, club legend. This was it. You know, this was kind of like, this was going to be Tottenham to the next, you know, to the moon and back. It didn't work. And whether it didn't work because it was, Glenn was like so in love with the club, you know, he just couldn't, I don't know, but it just didn't work, did it? You know, and sometimes that happens. And like, I don't think he really worked again properly, but it just, sometimes it's these situations. Because I'll tell you the one that always surprised me was Harry Redknapp with us. That really works.
Yeah, it did.
But on paper, when you looked at like the clubs he'd managed before, you never would have thought it would have. Like for me, I didn't think that was going to work. I thought that was going to be a nightmare. As it was, I had a lot of fun during his tenure. We played some like, you know, very, very English, you know, 4-4-2, but it was good. It was fun. So yeah, I'll accept the whole what's Paratici got to say. I mean, that guy's just like a workaholic machine. I think he's just working on plans and backup plans and all sorts. I don't think at the moment anyone at the club's genuinely ready to pull the trigger. You got to remember that, you know, it took us a long time to find a manager.
And it goes back to what I say as well, doesn't it, Sam? What's Paratici got to say? What's Paratici got to say?
Yeah.
You know? Where is that Lewis and Levy just looking down, smiling?
Well, Paratici's been brought in as the face of the club. You know, he's the one at the end of the summer window did the interview. You know, a summary of the transfer business, stuff like that, to try and increase, you know, visibility. He's the one who's going to be doing the face-to-face kind of stuff, because Daniel Levy and Joe Lewis have, you know, gone further into the background. But
give him time. Give him time, man. When did he get taken on? When we were in September, and it was, what, July they took him on?
Yeah. But, you know, it's all their fault, no one else's. Pete Thompson says, "Hi guys, thanks for keeping doing the podcast, hope you're keeping well. I'm with Sam on the Kane situation. I used to be really excited about the goal records. Now I don't care. I'm still angry, which is being compounded by the way he's playing at the moment. There's a lack of service, but his desire seems to have melted away. Do you think Nuno should have dropped him in favour of the setup that won us 3 games on the bounce? You know, just generally, is Kane too big to drop?" It's a great question, to be honest with you, Pete, because it's kind of like, I think me and Matt were talking about it last week, which is Tottenham. Harry Kane's a world-class player, so you're stronger with him there. The issue is at the moment, but the thing is, it could just be a form thing and we're overthinking it. So, you know, it wasn't that long ago that basically you might as well just leave him on the bench for August because the bloke couldn't hit a barn door. It was weird. And then, you know, 1st of September, it's like, oh yeah, I score hat-tricks now. It was just ridiculous. Whether the Euro hangover, the lack of pre-season, the obvious stress and confusion that happened off the back of that just means that he's delayed, and in October all of a sudden we're going to see the real Kane, you know, like we have in the past. I'd like to think that's where my head's at the moment. It could very well be wishful thinking, because if he plays like he's playing right now for the whole season, then damn. You know, it's going to be a nightmare for all. It's going to be a nightmare for all of us, because it makes it that much worse when it's someone you've got that much affection for. It's like, you know, if you had a player who was just, you know, Matt Doherty, who, you know, I'm unfairly singling him out now, but Matt Doherty started sulking around and generally didn't look like he cared anymore. I think the vast majority were like, sit on the bench.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Go to the under-23s. You know, when Kane's doing it, it's kind of like, oh, don't do this to us.
Yeah.
And I do, again, this is just my personal opinion, I do think that's having an impact on some of the players. You know, look at Sonny and a few of the others. Kane, albeit isn't the club captain, is a talisman for us. He is a guy who's like maximum effort, all of this. If he stopped doing that, what does that say to the other players? And I do also think there's a little bit of tension there between some of them, because Kane left and I think, or wanted to leave, and I think a few of them are a little bit annoyed about that. You know, they were very clear on social media. They weren't very happy with him and the way he was trying to do it. And now they're all teammates again. And you remember that picture after the first game where he was sat on the bus by himself, and it's kind of like, I just think it's almost like someone needs to get all of them in a room and go, right, fight. Clear the air.
Just clear the air.
Just have an argument, just get it out. Everyone
maybe bring Mourinho back just for that.
And then that's it. It's done. Because it just, because I've been, like, I played rugby to quite a high level when I was younger, and I've been in situations with teams where there is friction between teammates. So when I'm watching that game, like the weekend, where we just looked disjointed, like it was almost like the defenders and strikers had fallen out with the midfield. Well, we're not going to play with you, so we're just going to kick it over you. Now I know that was a great tactical decision, but it's just weird. It's like a really weird feeling. Next question, right, Matt? Calm, be cool.
Go on.
This one's from Dan Beecroft, or Dirty Dan as he's now known. It's hard not to jump on Nuno when he blames himself after the game. The football has been appalling so far. A defensive coach that has let 9 goals in 3 games, scoring 1, 2 goals from open play in 6 games. After Mourinho, we all wanted a coach to play the Tottenham way and be able to enjoy games again. This is a lot more of the same but worse. You said last week Nuno needs time, but how long would you give Nuno if this slump continues? So calmly, Matt, what's your measured opinion to Dan, our colleague's question?
Yeah, no, I do agree with him. Yeah, it's been dreadful, isn't it? But when it comes to time, a lot longer than a
6
month.
games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like, let's say we get to Christmas, for example, and it's just still dreadful. We're still the 20th when it comes to shots created. We're even Norwich have gone above us. Yeah, okay, get rid of him. It's clearly not working,
The one thing I'd say to that, sorry, and this is just a little bit devil's advocate kind of thing. If we got to Christmas like this, odds are we're probably out of the League Cup. Odds are we're probably out of the Conference League. Because, let's face it, I know we're doing okay in these things at the moment, we're progressing, but we're really not playing well. So it's kind of like the minute we run into someone who's, having a better day, we're going to lose. Isn't that a bit late to make a change? If it's clear it's not working, think about, like I said to you before about other clubs, like they look at it and go, oh yeah, we need to make the change. Do you think that, having a kind of in your mind, Christmas is kind of like the benchmark, or do you think that we should do that regardless?
Well, I mean, look, I appreciate that they were just 1-0s, but we won the first 3 games of our season, including in the league, including the win against Man City. So it's not like we've started with losing these 3 games, and it's like we've won 3, lost 3. Okay, so I appreciate it was 1-3.
Definition of Spursy.
yeah, but I just think that I just think that, look, I just give it, like you said earlier, with Pochettino. Okay, by now we kind of had a feel for the kind of football we were going to play. Maybe we've not got that yet. Whether that's because a lot of the players have got the coaching techniques in their head from Pochettino, they've got the coaching techniques in their head from Mourinho, they've got the coaching techniques in their head from Nuno. So it's still a bit of a mishmash of how they want. It's the definition's not there yet for the team. If it, like I say, if it gets to Christmas and it still is not there, then it's nothing he can do, is there? He's not going to be able to get his style in. It's not going to. It's just not working, is it? I think give it 3 or 4 months. I think that's a good amount of time. But like I said earlier, Liverpool didn't they lose 6 on the bounce at home last season? Was it something really bizarre? They'd not lost at home in like 4 or 5 years in the league, and they lost 6 home games in a row. But no one was talking about Klopp getting sacked, were they? No one was saying like, they've lost 6 home games in a row. Let's sack him, because they know Klopp. They know the way Klopp plays with Liverpool. And I think if he can get Nuno can get his style in with us and it works and it produces entertaining football, then that's brilliant. But if it's not working and there's nothing this guy can do to get his stamp on the squad, then okay, it's not what it's for. Like you said with the Hoddle situation, sometimes managers just don't work at a club.
Yeah, no, and that's true. I mean, I do agree with you in principle, definitely about the time. I mean, that's something I do wonder if perhaps that's our generation, though. And I say this putting us in the same bracket because we are pretty much the same generation with this. Me and you both look at football in a way of, Alex Ferguson and managers like that, and we look at it and go, these guys were incredibly successful, but it didn't happen overnight. You got to give them time. Does modern football exist like that?
I'll give you an example.
It does anymore.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Well,
4 years he hasn't won a trophy at Man United, and look at him last night. Ronaldo scores last-minute winner, Old Trafford. Like, look at the commentators. A glory Champions League night. They lost to Young Boys a week before. Do you know what I mean?
No,
but
I'm not. No, I think it's a good example. But the one thing I would say about that is how much money did he have this summer to spend, and every summer?
Yeah, but no, what I'm saying is I'm trying to make the point that give managers time.
No. Granted, but what my point is, if Nuno had that checkbook, perhaps giving him time would work. Do you see what I mean with this?
Yeah,
it's kind of
sure.
like, I agree with exactly what you said about, Ollie's got them playing great football now compared to where they were under Jose. He's transitioned and he's managed to transition to a team, but they're spending 90 odd million on Sancho. They brought in Ronaldo, which would have cost, it's costing them so much. They got a hell of a squad they've put together there, and the difference maker last night to win them the game was Ronaldo. And with us, we just won't ever do that. Under our current owners and stuff, we won't. So any manager that comes in needs to be a kind of Pochettino level savant for creating a.
And there you go, Sam. Where does the responsibility? Where does the blame? Where does this? Where does it ultimately lie?
There's no disputing it, but it's kind of like our owners aren't changing. So what do we do? I don't know. It's a debate that could go round and round. So let's try and speed it up. Let's go to the speed round. Stefan Cruz Alvarez, also known as Stefan, says you simply must do a section talking about the live stream train. Oh God, yeah. Right, I'll come on to that. However, on a more serious note, the season and the way players are going, even Magic Mauricio would struggle. Yeah, he's probably right. It's going to take more than 6 games to transform a team. Yeah,
Yep.
There you go. Stefan agrees with you. Nick Cook says, I recall you and Matt both saying that Harry Kane at Spurs makes us a better team. Right now, I would have to disagree. Maybe it's time to throw Son through the middle for a bit, like we did in those first 3 games. We at least have to try. This isn't me knocking Harry, he just hasn't been the star for us, this season. I kind of agree with you.
Yeah, I do. Look, in general, as a general look at it, Harry Kane makes Spurs a better team. Right now, he doesn't make Spurs a better team.
Yep. Okay, we're all agreed. Yeah, high fives all round. Michael Joseph says, very brave to host a podcast this week, fellas. So we've cleared out a few players in the last window. Who do you think should be sold in the next few windows to continue our rebuild? Ooh, that's massively subjective. If I was to pick one player right now who I'd say definitely should be moved on, because I'll pick a couple. We signed a kid called Clark from Leeds United. He's done nothing for us at all. There's plenty of interest in him. He's literally sat in our under-23s. He's got no first-team prospect, it would appear. It just hasn't worked. So there's a player that could go and have a career elsewhere, and we could get him off the wage bill. If I'm being uber, kind of like, I shared this with you, Matt. We signed Giovanni Lo Celso, Tanguy Ndombele and Ryan Sessegnon for a combined close to 100 million for the 3 players. Højbjerg, who was signed a season later, has played more Premier League minutes than those 3 combined.
Wow.
Yeah. So there you go. Lo Celso's another one. Really talented player, but he just hasn't worked. just isn't playing for us. Doesn't when he does play now, he looks lost. So yeah, there you go. Anyone just jumps to your mind straight away?
One that I'd be really surprised. I would have found myself really surprised saying, especially when Nuno started. But Matt Doherty, I feel like the guy there's something just not right about him. You know?
Yeah, it's not worked. You know, like you said about managers, sometimes transfers for players, it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And he'll go and play for another side. Like you could see him playing for Palace or Burnley or anyone else in the Premier League, like a solid Premier League team, and looking great. But for us, it just hasn't worked at all.
No.
Ian Vane, simple question: are you Nuno in or Nuno out? This week, Nuno in.
Yes.
Is he the long-term solution? No idea.
No idea. Yeah.
Tom Perk says, shall we support the ladies instead? I did last night. They lost 5-1 to Arsenal.
Oh, there you go. So they won their first 3 games and now they're losing again. That sounds familiar.
Hey, that was the FA Cup.
Oh, it was the FA Cup, was it?
It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. We can lose that. In the league, undefeated.
Oh, talking about Spurs Arsenal, can we just mention the under-17s?
Yeah, I was going to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yesterday, Tottenham under-17s played Arsenal under-17s. Let me just double check what the score was. Oh yeah, Arsenal 0, Tottenham Hotspur 9.
Woohoo! It's the second time we've done that, I think, in 3 seasons, isn't it? Against them.
Yeah. They've hammered us a couple of times as well, but we're not going to talk about that. No. So 9-0 to the under-17s. The future's bright. The future's lily white. John Coy's Hannum says, are the relatively good starts by Gill, Romero and even Royale with cheese a sign that perhaps after 300 million spent on new players since the Champions League final and the stadium opening, we are finally getting some players able to make positive contributions to the team? No sign yet of no Dombele or no Dembele, low battery Chelsea, Clerk, Sessing non-starter, Bergwijn or even Doherty paying back on their investment. Hopefully the next 300 million spent sorts us out with painful rebuild over 15 new players and counting. Yes, John makes a very valid point around player signings and the money we've spent. It's very subjective, John, because you've said about a relative, good starts for Gil, Romero, even Royale with cheese. If you go by social media, Royale was a massive waste of money and no one likes him, and Romero's yet to justify us signing him. So everyone likes Brian though. Good old Brian.
I think someone said Romero. I think I saw someone say Romero's too small. Apparently, that's why he's never going to make it.
Yeah, definitely. That makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Knob. Anyway, I can't go into that. I really can't. But yeah, John, it's subjective, mate. I'm with you. I think Romero is, when he's played, looks okay, looks aggressive. I like that. He looks like he needs to get up to speed, which he does. So there's no great surprise there. Brian is an exciting young player, but again, he looks like he needs to kind of adjust, which again is great, and that's fine. Roy, see, this is the thing. Like, I watched Emerson Royal's debut against Zaha. Now, if you're going to make your debut in the Premier League, there's probably a couple of players you don't want to play against, and Zaha's one of them as a fullback. The guy's a nightmare, and I thought he did really well. And then when the game finished, I was kind of like, for his debut, and I was making that allowance that for his debut in the Premier League, when he'd been at the club, didn't know any of his teammates, doesn't speak the language, had one training session ahead of having to start, and he had a player on the inside of him sent off. I'm kind of like, I thought his debut was right. He got rinsed. Like, everywhere I looked, everyone was just slagging him off. I was like, oh, wow. Damn, I don't know football.
No, clearly not.
My opinion clearly does not work anywhere. I don't know what to do. So yeah, it's crazy. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Moustache. I mustache you a question, but I'll save it for later. Mate, that's all of the questions. That's everything from Facebook and Instagram. That was our show. I think we did all right. I think we're bound to have cheered some people. I mean, my jokes alone definitely cheered some people up today. I can tell by the way you're kind of growling that you've really enjoyed them.
I've got a joke. I can tell you if you like, but it's at the end of the show, so if you want to cut it off, we might appreciate it. Wife, I've packed your bags and want you to go. Me, walking out the door. Wife, I hope you have a long, miserable life. Me, oh, so now you want me to stay?
Boom, boom, boom. Yeah,
That'll get rid of some of our female listeners, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that dealt with it. Yeah, our numbers were on the rise, man. Yeah, it's as if my knock jokes weren't bad enough. We went with that. So yeah, I did say I'd finish with this, and I will finish with this because this cracked me up. You know, earlier on I said Tottenham fans have kind of like a gallows sense of humour. Nothing demonstrated this better for me, and it was tongue in cheek. I know some of them were probably deadly serious because some people are, but I know a lot of the accounts doing this, and it was definitely tongue in cheek. So yesterday the club tweeted that they went live on Twitch and they were live streaming a first team training session. Now, given what's going on at the moment, given the defeat to Arsenal, live streaming a training session at the moment would seem somewhat foolhardy.
Not the best idea, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but we've now got training gear sponsors, of course, which probably means part of that agreement is that they do this, don't you think? Get a bit of exposure.
Yeah.
But me, I just went to the comment section. And so basically, the post on Twitter was like, hey, who wants to see live streaming of training? And it was amazing. It was no. Are you kidding me? Oh wow, so they train. Yeah, I've just watched 5 minutes. Basically what we do is we kick it over midfield and hope. And mate, seriously, if you've got a minute, find the post. You'll laugh your heads off, everybody. It had, and the best thing was there was some poor moderator clearly trying to clean it up because they knew that the sponsor would probably check this. And so you kept seeing like 300 comments. Now there's 100. Oh, back to 400. Now there's 100. And it was just because all the ones that were like no thanks were being left. So you can just find like a whole page of just people saying no. And the reason why there's just comment like that after another is because all the funny ones in between have been deleted.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
All the ones in between that were basically like, I'd rather shit in my hands and clap. They've all gone. But seriously, if you go on there now, I think there's still 300 odd, and it is hilarious.
Oh, dear.
So if you find that, it was yesterday, tweeted it out. And yeah, it's hilarious. On the actual stream on Twitch, people were commenting on that as well, but we're just getting banned. So yeah.
Oh dear.
Everyone went to Twitter, and it was hilarious. So yeah, enjoy that. But mate, that's our show for the week. We will be back next week to hopefully talk about some victories and some good things. But if we don't, I'm pleased to tell everyone I've got 167 more not jokes. I will be back next week. Everyone, take care.
Take care, mate.
Thank you for listening to the Spurs News Podcast. We hope that you enjoyed the show. Stay up to date with all things Tottenham. Follow us on social media. All links are in the podcast description.